Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Integrity Racing Show. I'm your host, Todd Thomas, and with us tonight is Brad Patton. He'll be our guest tonight. We'll get to know Brad a little bit and talk to him about his military career and kind of his iRacing career as well. So we'll talk to him about that. Jacob Fife, League Administrator and owner, is here in wonderful 240p as well. So we'll talk to Jacob about the league and answer any questions or maybe get some feedback from Jacob as well. But we thought we'd maybe change things up and talk about something maybe in a different order than what we normally do. We don't always highlight the truck series at the top of the show, but the truck series is kind of winding down. So let's go ahead and take a look at the truck series that had their chase race tonight at Texas Motor Speedway. Sam Nieto gets his first win in the Integrity Racing League, leading a race high 52 laps to get his first victory. So congratulations to Sam on that. Eric J. Smith, who I don't believe has run very few many races with the trucks this year, but finishes second. And Maxime Theriault there with a third place finish. Jacob Fife and Brad Patton round out the top five, the two guests. Guillermo Alvarez, a chase driver in the trucks, is sixth. James Hudson, seventh. I believe still the points leader. Greg Trigo, eighth. Carson Beitel, who is a new name to the league, I believe, is ninth. And then Randy Fayash, 10th. Obviously, I don't take part in the truck events on a weekly basis. And Brad, you're not somebody that does either, but you showed up tonight and scored a fifth place finish.
Yeah, I figured I'd hop in. There's nothing else to do, so was bored.
Well, tell us how the race went.
At the beginning, we had the first caution on lap 16 there, and was deciding if I wanted to go in or not. And Nick Ward happened to blink, so I didn't know where he was. So I just said, I'm just going to go in, take some tires. I ended up doing that, got on a way different pit strategy than everybody else, and decided instead of doing a 33 or 40 lap run, I was going to do 50, so make it one stop, and that didn't work out.
All right, and Jacob, looks like you score a fourth place finish to try to keep your chase hopes alive here in the Truck Series. Kind of walk us through your race and what the Truck Series saw tonight at Texas.
Yeah, I mean it was a decent race. I threw in a couple of curveballs in there. I kind of caught myself out a little bit when we had some green flag pit stops, and really just kind of put me in a position where the caution came out right after I pitted, and didn't get, since I was somewhat involved with it, I didn't get to wave around, or the lucky dog, I should say. So I had to do a wave around and then kind of wait for the next set of cautions. So that was a little bit different. Unfortunately, Lance Jennings was caught up in the first caution of the night, which affected the chase, as he's a part of that. So that helped me, but it was, you do the best you can with it. Luckily, we had a caution there at the end. I was able to come in and get tires, and had a really great battle with Guillermo, and Maxime was in there along with Hudson, and I was able to just get after it and make a fourth place finish out of it.
All right, I actually misspoke. James Hudson does not have the points lead in the trucks. In fact, James Hudson's on the outside looking in last place of the six drivers that are left remaining in the chase. Jacob Fife is actually our points leader, 12 points to the good, as the Truck Series will head to Phoenix next week to round out this round of the playoffs. Greg Trigo is actually in second, so there's been and Randy Fayash in third, and Lance Gentles in fourth. So maybe besides Jacob, I don't mean any offense to these guys. Greg Trigo, Randy Fayash, Lance Gentles, even despite the troubles tonight for Lance, maybe guys that you wouldn't normally expect to be in that Final Four are currently in that position. Cody Smith is 4 points back of Lance to try to get that last transfer spot, and then James Hudson there in sixth. Jacob, let's get your thoughts on these six drivers and where the points currently stand. What comes to mind is kind of the tortoise and the hare kind of thing with a guy like Randy Fayash. We talk about it every time we pull up the results. He's somewhere around fifth or sixth, and he keeps logging these good finishes and has put himself in a position to make it to Homestead.
Yeah, I do want to say one thing that I noticed. I was in a hurry to get it done, but Hudson and Gennell should be flipped. The points are right, but The
Ah.
two names should be flipped. Hudson will be on the cut line, and Gentles would be in sixth. But to go back to your what your question was about Randy, I think you really see consistency pays off, and I think that's the same case in the Cup Series. As you see a couple of drivers in there who go about it the same way and are able to advance from round to round. But really, you see a guy who keeps it clean, stays out of trouble, and makes the best. You know, makes the best of what he has. And if other people make mistakes and have issues, there, he's there to capitalize. So it's credit to him. It's a never give up attitude. And it's also, I think I always bring this up, when we first went to the chase format in the Cup Series, there was a driver who was very similar to that. Yeah, if I remember correct, his name was Jeff Morissette. He barely made it in to the chase itself and was able to go all the way to Homestead in the Cup Series and fight for the championship the first year, I believe Andrew won. So it can be done. So you just have to keep plugging away at it and keep making the right moves at the right time, and just play your cards right.
All right, and Brad, you're obviously in the chase in the Cup Series, but you're not in the chase in the Truck Series. So you enter the Truck Series race tonight, knowing that you're not in the Truck Series championship hopes, but you're racing around guys that are. Does that change the way you kind of attack the racetrack, or do you just go out there with the same mindset of trying to get to the front?
I always go out with the mindset of trying to go for a win. But I also, in the same aspect, don't want to ruin everybody else's chances of making the final race and going for a championship. Just trying to race them with respect and whatnot. And I'm also not in the Cup Series chase.
Well, I apologize. That's right. You missed the races.
I missed about 10 races. So I was the leader, and then I missed a couple of races, and now I'm not in.
Well, my apologies on that. I just forgot the fact that you won, I think, 3 races this year, so I just kind of assumed that you were in the chase, and for whatever reason, I had a little bit of a brain fart there. So Brad's obviously not in the Cup Series chase, but he took part in the Talladega race last night as well, and didn't give us any problems there. So somebody that's gonna race us clean throughout the chase here, hopefully.
Yeah, I didn't go below the yellow line.
No, I didn't even mean it that way. I swear to God, I did not mean anything about the yellow line incident. I swear to God.
That's not what
I was going to bring it up. You know I was going to bring it up.
But so anyway, with that being said, let's go ahead and transition to that Cup Series race at Talladega last night, where Adam de Blasio, Mr. Super Speedway himself, grabs his second Super Speedway win. Apparently, he can only win on the Super Speedways, and locks himself into the semifinals of the chase by virtue of his second win at a super speedway. Tyler Herr finishes second, pushed Adam pretty hard those last few laps, and was able to push Adam to the victory there. Christian Schallner, who was the lead car down that bottom line, kind of got outnumbered down there at the bottom. Only had one person behind him towards the end, but he finishes third. I come in fourth there by virtue of Cody Smith being on my bumper the final 15, 20 laps or so. Brad Patton finishes fifth. We talked about Cody Smith there in sixth. Eric de Blasio was in a very good position late in the race, but then it looked like I'm not sure what happened to Eric there, but kind of had to go below the yellow line and then kind of come back up and save the car. Joe Slamma finishes eighth, Nick Terrebuck ninth, and then Jacob Fife rounds out the top 10. But only one caution of the night. Some idiot caused a big wreck coming onto pit road. That kind of jacked up the standings a little bit, and unfortunately Guillermo Alvarez was taken out in that, kind of killing his chase hopes. But other than that, Jacob, it was a pretty clean race. Saw some pit strategy at Talladega like we normally do, kind of decide who won the race there.
Yeah, it was a pretty clean race. I know in our channel when we were going through discussing when to pit and stuff like that. And I have the feeling, without looking at a bunch of streams, that everybody was kind of thinking the same thing, that, okay, well, a couple guys will pit a couple laps earlier, and then we'll wait an extra lap. And then we all came to the same realization that nobody's pitting, and 30 cars are going to try to pit at the same time. It gets very interesting really, really quickly. And if you look at the replays and stuff, you'll see half the cars trying to go into pit lane, and the other half of the cars are trying to get back out of pit lane, and not get penalized, and it became quite the show there for a second, and an admin cluster, if you will. But beyond that, like I said, it was clean racing. Obviously, a lot of guys vying to try to steal a win, if you will. I know, as you mentioned, Eric, who was outside of the cut line before going into this race, had a chance to win and really would have shuffled up the standings. I think for the guys who are in my channel in the chase with William Dunn and Hudson, it was a matter of survival and just, trying to get as far up to the front as you can without really putting ourselves in a bad position. I know Dunn and I were relatively safe, and then Hudson was a little closer to the cut line, but I think he had enough of cushion to where he could hang in there. But overall, a good race, survive, move on, and hopefully we'll get through Kansas and advance to the next round.
Yeah, my apologies for the pit road catastrophe that was the interest there. Just locked them up. I thought I was going in slower. Cars were passing me on the outside. I was like, okay, I'm pretty slow enough, and just locked it up when I downshifted to third. So my apologies to everybody that either got penalized or definitely to Guillermo who got wrecked out in that. Brad, you kind of came in and got us a top 5 finish last night. Talk us through your race.
At the beginning of the race, we were trying to get on a different pit strategy than everybody else. It was me, Fash, and Caleb. We were all working together, and I think Nick was there eventually after like the second time, after the next caution or the first caution, whatever. But we were on a different strategy than everybody, and we figured, like you guys were saying, that half the people would go down the one lap prior to us, so there'd be like 8 of us, and we could just get out there and roll with it. And then the whole 30 cars on pit road happened, and it wasn't it wasn't fun. But I made up like 6 spots during there. Then the caution came out, and then we had nobody wanting to go to the high side for some odd reason. Nobody wanted to work the high side, so once again, me, Fayesh, and Eisenhower said, "Screw it, let's go up there and let's try to see if we can get to the front." We went from like 25th, 26th-ish around there, all the way up to, I think we were like 6th or 7th somewhere. Whoever the lead car was at the time, I think it was Caleb. But we ended up pushing them all the way up there, and then that's when we seen you were starting to come up. Tyler was fast all race. He's a really good super speedway driver. And then, of course, Adam and Eric, they were up there. And had to give Eric the room on the bottom there. I didn't want to pull what I did. I seen him below me, and so I was like, all right, I got to give him room, because if not, I'm going to hear about it 2 times in a row. So I decided to give him some room, and it was a great finish at the end there. I didn't have enough to push Christian with 4 cars on your outside versus 2 on the inside. There's no way that inside's going to win on that.
Yeah, I'm going to venture to guess. I haven't actually had a chance to look at, but I think what happened to Eric there on that, I think it was with coming to the white flag, so on the backstretch with 2 to go, Eric had been on the same right side tires, I believe, the entire race. And just shot loose on him coming out of 2.
Well, I think he was going to push, because I was starting to push Christian, and once I seen Eric cut down, I got off Christian's back bumper, but I think Christian still kept in it just because there was only 2 to go. And I think once he was coming out of the turn, that the right side tires only didn't really work out after running the whole race like that. So I don't know. It was just a weird chain of events that happened in the last 2 laps.
Yeah, and then we had the my pack, which as we came out of the pits, I think we were about 4 seconds behind. My pack ended up being Joe Slamma, Nick Terbuck, myself, and Cody Smith, and just pounded the crap out of each other. This is a family show. Pounded the crap out of each other.
Get a whole new subscription and say, "Hey, look, mature audience." Because Todd doesn't know how to control his mouth. There we go.
My apologies.
Just put the no bull sign up there.
Yeah. So just push the tar out of each other for the last 15 laps, and got there. Honest to God, I would have loved to have seen what could have happened if we'd have had maybe 1 extra lap, because 4 of us worked really well, and then I think we caught you guys with 2 laps remaining, and got to fight a little bit. Me and Cody made a move to get around Nick and Joe, and we were actually getting to the outside of the leaders coming to the checkered flag. It was just a little bit too late. But good race. Again, sorry that I kind of screwed it up, but that those things are going to happen. But let's take a little bit of time. We haven't had a chance yet. Jacob, did you have something you wanted to throw in there? No? Okay.
No.
Okay. All right. Yeah, don't cuss, please.
I'm surprised he ain't talking about how happy he is we only had 1 caution. Normally, he's like, yeah, we got to get the cautions down. Got to get the caution. At a super speedway of all places.
Good at super speedways this year. sadly, it's been contrary to every strategy I've done all season for the super speedway. So no, y'all have done well there. So it's everywhere else it's a little questionable. So
I actually think it's been a pretty clean year throughout the
it
entire. I
has,
mean, we've had
other than the
problems.
beginning, but yeah,
I mean, I got
beginning.
called to the hauler last week, but we've had problems. But as far as the number of cautions, I don't think we've had too many cautions compared to last year. But
We'll
that's
have to get
just
our stat guy on it.
yeah. So Adam will
Adam,
have to do
make a
some math.
spreadsheet.
Yeah, Adam will have to do some math on that one. But it's been a pretty decent season. And let's get to know Brad Patton. I forgot to do this at the middle portion of the show like we were going to, but it's a good little break before we look at the chase standings for the Cup Series. Brad, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you've got a military background. Tell us how you got involved in the military and kind of how you served our country.
Okay. I'm originally from New York, Jamestown, New York to be exact. And the way I got into the military is my next door neighbor was a flight attendant on the second plane that hit the towers. So naturally, being mad, decided that right then and there that I wanted to join up. Had to go through some legal things because they wouldn't let me in. And ended up doing 7.5 years active in the Air Force. And then I did 2.5 years once I moved back to Ohio to be with the family. And yeah, ever since I've been here in Ohio. I'm getting ready to go to school down in Florida, so I'll be able to go to Daytona 500 finally after 34 years. And yeah, that's basically about it. Just living in Minerva, Ohio, right next to Canton Hall of Fame, pretty much.
All right, I've actually been in the Canton area, so I've got to visit the Hall of Fame there. It's kind of a miserable place, if you ask me, but
Yeah, it is. They're actually making up here in Canton at the Hall of Fame. They're making man, what I want like kind of like a new town, basically. That's going to be centered around bringing the NFL draft here, and they've already put in for 2018 or 2019. They're trying to get the draft there, so that'll be interesting and bring some new revenue to the Ohio suburbs, if you want to call it that.
Gotcha. All right, well, tell us a little bit about your iRacing career. What kind of team connections you're on? I know you're somebody that's you pretty good speed on your part, and you got a pretty high I rating. Do you have maybe dreams of? I know that Pro Series is coming up, the NASCAR iRacing Pro Series. Kind of what your plans are there? Are you going to be taking part in that and trying to get that black stripe for the upcoming season?
Yeah. I've been I think I've been iRacing now for since 2010, so 7 years now. 6 or 7 years, I can't remember. But yeah, of course, always got the pro ambition. I'm on Fastlane Racing, which Jonathan Dicker, me, there's a bunch of us over there. We got some speed this year. We're looking pretty forward to pro. Hopefully, getting like 2 or 3 of us in there. I know there's only, for some odd reason, iRacing decided that they're only going to take 10 pros this year. I don't know why, but yeah, I'll be going for pro. My I rating right now isn't the greatest. It's only a 48-48. And I got a little work to do before I actually try to race for pro.
All right, I'm nowhere close to. I've kind of taken my high rating the last couple of months, so I'm not even close to even thinking about it and don't really care to. What is the mindset of somebody? Okay, I'm really going to attack this. Are you guys already starting to work on sets? I don't even know if the schedule's been released. What are you guys doing right now? And do you guys have a well thought out plan, or is it just a week by week thing? Tell us how you. I'm not asking for any trade secrets or anything like that here, but how does Brad Patton approach the iRacing Pro Series coming up here in a couple months?
The way I approach it is we start working on sets now. Like, for instance, Texas, Kansas, like we're working on for NIS and whatnot. Typically, Texas, Auto Club, Phoenix, those are usually in the chase. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's the same schedule as last year. So if you guys want to, you guys, whoever's team you're on, you guys start working on your sets now, and hopefully by then you can master the set, master the speed, find out the loopholes in the set, and hopefully everybody has a good time competing. I know pro is going to be. It's going to be a battle, whether you're in first, second, or third split. But if you can find that little extra speed in the long run, I think anybody has a chance. But yeah.
All right. Well, we want to wish Brad luck. Brad, I think we did have a question in the chat. I believe this is Roll, everybody's personal favorite viewer. Wanted to know what you're going to school for. I think you said you're coming down here to Florida for school. Tell us what school you're looking at and what you're going to be studying down there in school.
In January, I'm going to be moving down to West Palm Beach, and I'm going to be going to school for golf management. I'm going to get my associates in golf management, so I would become a head pro, and I would be able to teach people how to play golf, teach them how to basically do their own clubs, just anything that really realistically has to do with golf. I'll be doing.
Well, awesome. That's you and Jay get along well. You can hit some golf balls at Jay's. I'm sure you're just as good as Jacob and Christopher are.
Jacob seen me play before.
He's better. He's better than Chris. We'll put it that way. And he's probably better than me. So
it's hard to not be better than Chris.
Jacob and I actually played in a tournament. We both won closest to the pin awards.
Yeah, that was fun.
Well, that's an interesting story. Where was this played at?
You'd have to ask him. I missed a hole in one by an inch, and I don't know how much he missed.
Yeah, we were. I think we were playing Hobbs Hole out in Tappahannock, if I remember correctly. So yeah,
sounds right.
It was nice. Yeah, it was a fun tournament. Definitely, we played pretty well that time.
Never start drinking before the tournament starts. That's all I'm going to say.
Why not? That's half the point, isn't it?
Because we were trying to win money, and by the sixth hole, we were good to go. we didn't care at that point. We were like, we're just going to hit a golf ball and see how many people we can hit.
Yeah.
Well,
we took the Schistler approach, actually.
Yeah. That sounds like Chrysler. Or Chris Schistler. Chrysler. Did I just call him Chrysler?
Have you started drinking before the show? Maybe that's
actually, I swear to God, yes. I had 2 glasses of scotch before the show. I'm not even going to lie about that. I'm a little tipsy tonight.
Hey, you need to get one of these and fill it up. One of those big pop cups and just fill it all the way up. You'll be good.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, thanks to Brad for joining us tonight as our guest. Let's go ahead and transition to the Chase standings. I'm sure a lot of people are watching this to kind of get a good look at what the Chase standings look like for the Cup Series. And there they are for you. Caleb Eisenhower and Adam de Blasio are, of course, locked into the semifinal round, the round of 8, by virtue of Caleb's win last week at Charlotte and Adam's win last night at Talladega. William Dunn's in pretty solid shape. He'd have to have catastrophe happen to not transfer. He's 18 points to the good. And Williams probably a little bit too smart to let catastrophe happen to him. So we're going to expect that Williams probably going to be in that final 8. Jacob Fife and myself are probably in good shape, but you don't want to get too comfortable there. 13 and 12 points to the good, respectively. And then we've got Lance Gentles, Eric de Blasio, and Greg Trigo, the final 3 drivers in. Nick Terbuck, James Hudson, Guillermo Alvarez, and Michael Dole. But realistically, you're looking at just Nick Terbuck and James Hudson, who have realistic chances to make the third round of the Chase, and that's the round of 8. So only 8 spots and probably 10 drivers within shouting distance there. Jacob, as we go to the final race of this round, you would think that this is not a racetrack that causes a lot of major problems, but unfortunately we know in past history, Kansas being a single groove racetrack, one car gets in the wall and that entire choo-choo train can pile in there at Kansas. So things could really shape up pretty quickly.
Yeah, the main goal for myself anyway, and I'm going to imagine you're in the same boat, given where we're at in points, is take on the road racing philosophy, and since you've already cussed tonight, don't wreck the damn car. And if we do that, I think we'll be okay based on a couple things, based on the amount of cars that have shown up the past couple weeks, and where I think I can reasonably finish if I do that. So if I do those 2 things, I think I'm moving on the next round, and we are certainly still in the survive and advance mode of the chase. So doing this a couple times, don't put yourself in positions to be in the choo-choo train, as you mentioned, and just give yourself room, make passes when you're able to do them, and just bring it home in one piece. And I think we'll have an all right night, as far as I'm concerned. And then obviously at the cut line, it gets a little bit more dicey. Back from, I believe it was Lance on back. It is going to be a little bit more challenging as you have the guys thank you. Like Hudson, Eric obviously moved up some with his run at Talladega, but you take Nick and Hudson, they're more than capable of getting in the mix and challenging for those positions. So
Live updates occurring here on the screen as
yeah,
well.
I see. Yeah, move the cursor around to show us what we're talking about.
Hi, Adam. How's it going?
Yeah. God almighty. But yeah, no, like I said, I think Nick and James have a really good shot to move into the top 8. But some things have to go right for that to happen as well. And obviously, Guillermo is no slouch. So if he is able to win at Kansas, then he will throw a big wrench into the chase standings.
It's an interesting race for me because obviously, like Jacob said, don't wreck the damn car would probably be the first priority. But Kansas is, we all know, probably my best track on the circuit. I won there in the fall. I'm pretty fast at Kansas, especially in the daytime. I've always been pretty fast there. But do you really want to risk running there in 4th or 5th when the leaders get caught up in a big one and now your chase hopes are over with? It's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't type of philosophy there, and you just do the best you can. But really quickly, we haven't really talked about Rookie of the Year because I thought it was a foregone conclusion. We'll go ahead and transfer over to the Rookie of the Year standings. I thought this was a foregone conclusion, and it kind of is. Caleb Eisenhower has a 46-point lead. But there's a little caveat that I just learned about today, and we want to make sure everybody's aware, is that Brad Patton could be in the driver's seat for the Rookie of the Year because Caleb Eisenhower, should he win the overall championship, would then be ineligible for the Rookie of the Year. So, Brad, I guess that means you've got to be rooting for your boy Caleb to take the championship and try to hold on to this 14-point lead you've got over Nick.
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, that's my whole goal is to have Caleb win the championship. That way I get Rookie of the Year again. I got it in the Truck Series a couple of years ago, and I'm going to try to go for it this year. But missing those races, I mean, what are you going to do? Definitely. Let's go, Caleb. Let's go from the rear racing.
Good deal. So that wraps up our look at the past. So Brad's in pretty good shape there for Rookie of the Year as long as Caleb can make it to Homestead. He's already advanced to the round of 8. He's just got to make it to Homestead, and then Caleb's obviously got to be your favorite right now to win the championship. He's kind of dominated the second half of the season here in the IRL. So that's kind of our look back. Let's look forward a little bit. Next week, the trucks go to Phoenix. I haven't driven the trucks at Phoenix because the trucks suck, and so does Phoenix. So I haven't driven it there. So, Brad, I don't know if you've done any laps there at Phoenix, or you can kind of tell us what we might expect there.
No, I'm not going to be there. I hate that track.
10-4. Jacob, talk about Phoenix and the trucks.
Hey, I just want to memorialize the fact that you and Patton actually agree on something. Yeah, Phoenix is actually good for me, luckily. So hopefully, both in the Cup car and the truck. So it'll be good. It'll be a fun race there. I think we'll do all right, and it provides a little bit more of a challenge than your cookie cutter track, obviously, and you have to actually work the brake and the gas at the same time. I know it's quite the challenge, but should be a fun race. Looking forward to it as we get closer to the end of the season for the trucks. The trucks are going to end a couple of weeks earlier than the Cup Series. We'll go to Phoenix. We'll have a week off, and then we'll hit Homestead with the Final Four. So looking forward to it. Hoping to be in the mix for it because. Quite frankly, I'd rather not have to give out more money this year, and hopefully it'll be a good end of the season.
All right, and the Cup Series goes to Kansas. Woo! Love that place. Great place to drive. I'm not sure it's a great place to race, but on the daytime it's a little bit more slippery and maybe a little bit racing. Brad, can we expect to see that number 1 car at Kansas on Monday night, and what are you looking forward to as we head to well, I don't even know that damn casino, whatever the name of that casino is. We're going to race that on Monday. There's a casino on the backstretch.
I know.
The race is named after the casino because
you don't have
the
to
casino.
justify
Whatever. Just talk about Kansas.
I was so confused. What are you talking about, casino, man?
What is actually in the bottles back behind you, Ty? Because I don't think they're empty bottles. I think just
no. Let's see.
It's piss.
We've got that's Arby's. We've got some Wendy's over here, and then random water bottles. Not as mad as the 51 that I had earlier.
Hey, Todd.
Yes.
I cleaned my space up. Just for the show.
Just for the show. Well, that you even made your bed. Like, let's
Look
get
at that,
show
look at
show the crowd here. The man even made his bed. Let's.
Hey, you gotta look good, man.
We got a nice "Keep Calm and Chive On" poster behind you. Yeah, I mean
I got on the shirt too.
that's very professional. The fact that I even put a shirt on for this show is an accomplishment.
You're never supposed to wear a shirt.
And we're all appreciative of that, Todd.
Well, I thought if I went shirtless for a couple of shows, it might increase the viewers, but
We were over 10 a little bit ago.
we were actually at -4 viewers for that episode when I took the shirt off. But I wouldn't say we're nowhere near the 51 bottles that we had at one point. We're probably around 10
10.
right now. Solid 10
I'm
bottles.
not
So.
even
All right, anybody got any profound thoughts about Kansas and how to avoid the big catastrophe when the choo-choo train hits the wall?
be on the bottom of the track.
That
usually helps.
Good luck.
Not being the
But not
choo-choo.
bottom. If you want to be slow, go bottom.
That's the Jay Heisman strategy. Jay Heisman drives the bottom at Kansas, and he's like, I don't want to be in that choo-choo when it hits the wall.
Yeah, but he also stays out when everybody pits.
To lead a lap.
Mm-hmm. The Heisman way is its own plan by itself, and you just can't. Him and maybe can't run it.
I like his
And that's-
strategy.
Yeah, and it works. Hell, he's in the top 4, or at least he was.
I would rather stay in the front instead of being in the back with the whole mosh pit of. Yeah.
I've tried the Heisman way. I have literally tried it. It does not work for me. I don't know if I just don't do it right, but it's. I don't know how he does it, but every time you look at the end of the race, you're like, "Hey, Heisman finished 9th. How did that happen?" So, all right. Well, that's
right.
that's our recap of Kansas and Phoenix next week for the trucks, Kansas for the Cup Series. I guess we'll go ahead and wrap this thing up unless anybody else has got anything great to say. I've got some alcohol to drink there in the living room. So, thanks to Brad Patton. Yeah, thanks to Brad Patton for joining us on the show tonight. A little bit of a more relaxed show. Hope you enjoyed it there at home. Thanks to those that were hanging out in chat and keeping us company a little bit there as well. So again, thanks to Brad, thanks to Jacob as well. We'll see you next Tuesday night. We'll be here at the same time as we'll recap the Cup Series and see what happened with the end of the second round. And we cut the Cup chase down to 8. And then we'll recap the Truck Series as well. So thanks to everybody for joining us tonight. We hope you have a good night.